All right, so electric vehicles, right? They're everywhere you look these days. Cleaner, quieter, it all sounds pretty great in theory. But there's this one thing, this one scenario that, well, kind of makes me cringe a little every time I think about it.
Oh, yeah, I think I know where you're going with this.
I'm talking about that moment you pull into the airport parking lot, after a long flight, you're exhausted, and you glance down at your dashboard, and bam, the battery icon is flashing angry red at you.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely see why that would be less than ideal, especially when you factor in the whole travel mindset. You're on a schedule, you're maybe in an unfamiliar city, and reliable transportation is like non-negotiable.
Exactly. It's like the worst possible time to be dealing with a low battery.
Yeah.
You just want to get home to your hotel, unpack, relax, and then it hits you that last-minute drive to the airport with the traffic and all. It took way more juice out of your battery than you anticipated. And then maybe the long-term lot chargers are all taken. Or even worse, they're out of service.
That's a real kick in the teeth.
Total buzzkill, right? And the thing is, it's not some rare freak occurrence either. This is something a lot of EV drivers experience. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today in our deep dive. We're looking at a potential solution specifically for this airport EV charging nightmare, based on some interesting information from a company called BeeCharged EV.
Airports, they really are like a pressure cooker when it comes to EV charging. It's a whole different ballgame compared to, say, running low on charge on your regular commute.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get into the nitty-gritty here. What is it about airports that makes them such a challenge, such a unique charging headache for EV drivers?
Well, for starters, you've got this massive flow of people coming and going,
Well,
right, all day, every day. So the demand for charging stations is naturally going to be way higher at an airport compared to most other places. And unlike, say, gas stations, which are, pretty much on every corner, EV charging infrastructure is still catching up.
so finding a spot is tough enough, but then there's the added stress of whether the charger's even going to work when you get there.
Exactly. Chargers can and do malfunction. You just never know. It adds this element of uncertainty to the whole equation.
Right, it's not just about finding an empty spot. It's about finding one that's actually functional. And even if you do manage to plug in, time is often a major factor at an airport. You might have a tight connection to catch or an important meeting, and the standard charging speeds, they just might not cut it. They might not be fast enough to give you the range you need in the limited time you have.
That's a really important point. No one wants to be stuck at the airport for hours just waiting for their car to slowly inch up to a decent charge level.
And let's not forget about long-term parking. If you're leaving your EV for days or even weeks at the airport, even with those fancy battery management systems, there's always going to be some degree of natural battery drain. Coming back from a trip to a car with practically zero range, that's got to be one of the most deflating feelings.
I can imagine. And it really underscores the inconvenience, the stress that these charging issues can create, particularly for travelers who've made the conscious decision to go electric, for the efficiency, for the environmental benefits. Imagine you're a business traveler rushing to a crucial meeting or a family just eager to kick off their vacation.
Yeah, a dead battery at the airport throws a wrench in the whole thing.
Yeah.
It adds this layer of anxiety and frustration that no one needs.
It really does. And it taps into that, that core concern we hear so much about with EVs, range anxiety. I mean, the studies show that the fear of being stranded without power, it's one of the biggest barriers to EV adoption.
Right. It's a huge psychological factor. People need to feel confident that they can rely on their EV no matter where they're going. And especially at these key transit points, these hubs like airports. If you can crack the charging problem at airports, it could really help boost confidence in EV infrastructure as a whole.
Absolutely. It's about making that entire EV ownership experience feel smooth and dependable. So this brings us to BeeCharged EV and what they're calling their safety net membership.
Right. They're promoting it as a solution, a game changer, to address this whole range anxiety issue. And what's interesting is they're not just talking about installing more static charging stations. They're going for something a bit more innovative, I guess you could say.
Dynamic, maybe? On demand?
Yeah, that's the word. You're focusing on emergency mobile charging.
Yeah.
Delivered right to your location when you need it most. So let's break down how this whole safety net membership actually works. Walk us through it.
Sure. So picture this. You're in that dreaded scenario. You're at the airport, your battery is critically low, and you're starting to panic. But you're a BeeCharged EV member. So what do? You pull out your phone, You open up their app.
Okay, so it's all app-based, which makes sense. You've got the solution right there in your pocket. What happens next?
Well, through the app, you basically put in a request for emergency charging. You share your precise location, and the app connects you with their network of mobile charging units. They then dispatch a unit straight to your location. It's kind of like, calling for roadside assistance, but for EV charging.
That's pretty slick. And they really emphasize the speed and reliability of this service, which is crucial in a time-sensitive environment like an airport.
Totally. The whole emergency aspect is key here. Their mobile units are equipped to deliver a good chunk of charge pretty quickly, enough to get you to your final destination, whether that's home, your hotel, or even to a more permanent charging station where you can fully top up. And they specifically mentioned that at airports, they prioritize rapid response times to minimize any disruptions to your travel plans.
So you're not stranded, you're not stuck waiting around for hours. You get that quick boost you need to keep moving. And this isn't just something they offer at a handful of major airports, right? They're talking about nationwide coverage.
Yeah, that's one of their big selling points. They specifically mentioned big international airports like LAX, JFK, the major hubs. But the Safety Net membership is designed to cover all airports in the U.S., including those smaller regional ones.
So it's a genuine safety net, a backup plan, no matter where you're flying to in the country.
That's the idea. And this service, it's exclusive to members, right? It's a perk of signing up. You pay a small monthly fee, and in return, you have access to this whole nationwide fleet of mobile emergency chargers. And the biggest benefit they highlight is the peace of mind it provides. Knowing that the service is there, ready to bail you out if you ever need it, that can make a huge difference psychologically.
I can see that. It's like taking a worry off your plate.
Yeah.
It lets you travel without that constant nagging fear of running out of juice.
Exactly. You don't have
Yeah.
to meticulously plan every single leg of your journey, obsessing over charging stops.
Okay, so we've talked about airports, but it sounds like BeeCharged EV is also thinking bigger, looking beyond just the airport challenge. They've got these partnerships going on with cities, with local governments. So how does that fit into the whole picture?
So this is where things get even more interesting. It's not just about fixing the airport problem in isolation. They're trying to create this more robust, more resilient mobile charging network that extends beyond just airports. They're collaborating with, municipal governments, parking facilities, local businesses. It's a whole collaborative effort to create this EV-friendly ecosystem within a city.
So they're working with multiple stakeholders, weaving it all together. And what are the main benefits of these kinds of partnerships? What do they hope to achieve by working with cities directly?
Well, a few things. First, it allows them to be more strategic with where they position their mobile charging units. By working with the city, they can identify those high traffic zones, those key locations where a stranded EV driver is most likely to need assistance. It could be around airports, but it could also be, busy downtown areas, near highway exits, those kind of places.
Okay, so a more targeted, more efficient deployment of resources. What else?
The second big benefit is that it supports the city's own sustainability goals. Cities are increasingly pushing for EV adoption, right? But range anxiety is a major hurdle. So by offering this backup charging solution, BeeCharged EV is making it easier for people to make that switch to electric. If you know that there's this safety net in place, provided by a company working in partnership with the city, it makes the whole idea of owning an EV a lot less daunting.
It makes sense. It reduces that perceived risk, that
Right.
fear of being stranded. What about that third benefit you mentioned?
Right. The third big advantage is operational efficiency. By working directly with the city, they can streamline their operations, their response times. They might have dedicated resources within the city, maybe a specific point of contact. It allows for faster coordination, smoother communication when a charging request comes in.
They actually gave an example of how this city partnership could play out in a real-life scenario, right? Something about landing in an airport with low range.
Yeah, they talked about flying into a city where BeeCharged EV has this solid partnership in place. You land, you check your battery, and it's in the danger zone. So you use the app, request a charge. Now, because of the city partnership, there might be a mobile charging unit already stationed somewhere strategically, maybe at a municipal parking garage close to the airport or in a designated business district nearby. That unit can then be dispatched to you in the airport parking lot much faster than if it were coming from some distant central location. And they can give you enough juice to get you home safely or to a convenient public charging station.
So it's all about that faster, more integrated response, thanks to those local connections. Sounds like a pretty good deal, right?
Yeah, it seems like a win-win. EV drivers get the quick assistance they need, and the cities further their sustainability goals by making EV ownership more practical, less stressful.
Makes you wonder what other kinds of everyday problems could be solved with this kind of creative, on-demand, partnership-based approach.
It's an interesting model for sure, thinking outside the box.
All right, so to sum it all up, for you, our listener, why should you care about this BeeCharged safety net membership? What's the takeaway here?
Well, I'd say the main benefit is peace of mind, especially when you're traveling in your EV. You can relax knowing you have backup if you need it.
And that nationwide coverage is huge.
Yeah.
You're not limited to just a few specific areas. It's the whole U.S.
Exactly. And it's not just about the coverage, it's about the priority you get as a member. You know you're not just another face in the crowd. When you need help, they're going to get to you quickly.
And it all ties back to this bigger picture of making EVs more accessible, more appealing to more people, which ultimately helps us move towards a more sustainable future.
Yeah, for sure. Addressing those anxieties, those barriers to adoption, that's key to making that shift to cleaner transportation.
Okay, so bottom line, the BeeCharged safety net membership seems like a pretty solid option if you're an EV driver, especially if you travel a lot and you've ever felt that pang of worry when you see that low battery warning at the airport. It's worth checking out, for sure.
Definitely. It could really enhance the whole EV ownership experience.
So if you're intrigued, if you want to dig a little deeper, head over to their website. It's www.beechargeddev.com. You can also download their app, probably get a better sense of how the service works. And if you prefer to talk to a real person, give them a call at 888-675-9555. They'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
It's about giving EV drivers more options, more control, more confidence on the road.
So as you go about your day, think about this. Imagine the freedom of hitting the open road or even just hopping on a plane, knowing that even if you encounter a low battery situation, you've got a reliable solution right there in your pocket. It's a pretty compelling vision, isn't it? A future where range anxiety is a thing of the past. What do you think? That's something to ponder. Until next time, happy driving, everyone.